We start tonight with the Melbourne Football Club, Caro. More drama, and once again, it involves Christian Petracca.
It does, Craig. Unbelievably, given that it's more than 3 months since the King's birthday, Christian Petracca and what happened to him on the King's birthday is now being investigated by the AFL Players Association. Paul Marsh, my understanding is started to talk to various parties involved, including Christian Petracca, about what happened on that fateful day. Now, this could get very embarrassing for the Melbourne Football Club. It could get very embarrassing for the AFL, who, through their Chief Medical Officer and General Counsel Stephen Mead, cleared Melbourne and did not send them a please explain for any negligence or wrongdoing. Now, the AFL is satisfied that from their point of view, everything from their level was done right. But there is no doubt that terrible stories are still emerging about what happened. Miscommunication between the various health transport services involved on the day. The length of time it took for the Demons to call an ambulance. The misdiagnosis of Christian Petracca's injury. The fact that he was taken to the Epworth Hospital and waited there for hours before being taken to the Alfred, where he finally had surgery and was unable to have a general anaesthetic because of the seriousness of the situation. Now, I personally put my hand up. I've said several times that Christian needs to forgive Melbourne and move on if he is staying in the club. But what has happened since Paul Marsh has returned, and interestingly it's only happened since he returned from his 3-month leave of absence, is that he is really concerned, not only for Christian, but for all players and the state of the game, that this was allowed to happen. So I think this story is going to get uglier, Craig, and when we find out more details about what happened at the... Now, everyone accepts that he should never have gone back onto the ground.
But you think there's a lot more possibility that things happened post this in the rooms?
Yeah. This was the biggest mistake. We saw this happen, and then we saw Christian Petracca. This is, I mean, look, he's in so much pain. He's coming off the ground, the siren's gone, and he comes back onto the ground. And we know, look at him. I mean, you can tell how much pain he's in. Everybody knows that it was a mistake, and here he is being ready to be taken off by ambulance. There were 2 ambulances at the ground. A 3rd ambulance was called. Everyone seems satisfied.
Why was the 3rd ambulance called if there was ambulances at the ground?
The 2 ambulances at games that have a capacity of more than 60,000 have to be kept there for the public. And everyone is satisfied that that's okay. But why did he go to the Epworth? Why was not all the information given to the medicos correct? Were the scans correct? Why did he go back onto the ground? I mean, we know all of this. I still have never really understood why Melbourne was cleared of no wrongdoing. I'm not saying it was deliberate. Clearly, the doctor made a mistake and they've put their hand up for that. But I think it's really interesting that Paul Marsh has come back, and he's now decided to launch, well, not launch, but he's now started to ask questions of his own. I also wonder about Petracca's management. Did they do enough? Did they ask enough questions? Because we've never heard from them about what went wrong. And, you know, this is on a day where Steve Smith, last week everybody thought was going to come in and take over the presidency. He, I think, is still keen to do that, but he won't do it for a year. But he has been telling friends and acquaintances and colleagues around the Melbourne Football Club he's very surprised that this review is still being carried out by Gary Pert. I know there's an external come in from the All Blacks, but Gary Pert is still carrying it out. And I still feel, Craig, that there is going to be an executive fallout. We've already seen the president go in what was pretty brutal and quick. I still wonder whether Alan Richardson perhaps might be the fall guy for this. I'm not sure about the doctor. Now, clearly the doctor he misdiagnosed what had gone on, and maybe anyone could have done that. Nobody knew. Christian himself didn't know how serious the injury was.
Does it change anything on Christian's position, Caro? Like, does that mean, like, he committed to Melbourne? Does that change?
Well, he was sitting at Casey the other day with Taylor Harris watching the AFLW team. He's staying at the Melbourne Football Club for now, but this is not over. The family has not forgiven. Well, I don't think they will ever forgive what happened to their son that day.
What Caro's saying is there's a chain of events perhaps beyond merely putting him back on the ground, which I know it's been reported, but he could have easily died in the next 12 hours ahead based upon how long it took to get him to the Alfred for trauma.
To the right hospital.
Yeah, the right hospital, and that deserves a deep
I'm not
inquiry.
accusing the Melbourne doctor of negligence or any wrongdoing, but mistakes were made, and I'm not just talking about the Melbourne doctor, and I'm surprised the AFL didn't
and the MCC,
dig into this any further.
Have they looked into this themselves?
They have.
And they were surprised by the 3rd ambulance, weren't they?
No, I think they can see there were miscommunications.
Who's driving it? who's driving this?
Well,
After all this
I think
time?
Paul Marsh has come back, and in his role, that he should be driving
But
it.
if he wasn't away, it would have been going on 3 months ago, would it? Or is it just...
I think so. Yeah,
I think the PA probably could have done more at the time. And I also wonder about the medicos and some of the hospitals involved and whether they're also looking at
So
what
what's
went
worst
on.
case here for Melbourne? Legal action, is it? Is that...
No, I don't think there's legal action. I think that's going to be quite difficult. I mean, there could be. I'm not predicting that. I just wonder, though, if more...
And you wonder whether
executives are
Christian
gonna
knows the depth of it too, which is the other thing that will come to light.
I'm not sure
it does
exactly
speak
what
to-
happened, but the story Christian
Yep.
is telling the PA, I don't
Speaking-
think is pretty.